The Umpire Inspire podcast is all about the stories, all about the journeys, and all about the heart of being an umpire. I'm your host, Jason Becker. Hi everybody, Jason here. Thank you so much for taking the time to tune into the show today. Welcome to everyone in the Umpire Inspire Nation. Are we a nation yet? No, probably not. Maybe we'll get there someday. But I do want to thank you for listening, nevertheless. Check out umpireinspire.com, where you can listen to previous episodes of the show and subscribe on your choice of podcast platforms. There's links for you there. Do hop over to Facebook and follow us there so you can get all the up-to-date information and news. And anytime, please email me. My email address is jason@umpireinspire.com. I would be very happy to hear your feedback on the show. In this episode, I sit down with my good friend, Daniel Mills. Daniel is a Little League and high school softball umpire, public high school teacher, former lawyer, generally very thoughtful guy. Daniel's a really engaging guy to be around. You're really going to like him. There's an awful lot that I admire about Daniel. One thing is that he has this great balance between having fun as an umpire and taking his job seriously. You'll hear us discuss that at length in this conversation. When we walk out onto a field, we should always have fun and do what is within our power to make it fun for the players, the coaches, the families. But we should also be out there to do our job, to get to work. It is very possible to do both of those things, and some umpires just have that superpower. Daniel is definitely one of those umpires. And, I aspire to that myself. And so this conversation was a great reminder and an encouragement to me on that point. And I sure hope it will be that for you as well. Please enjoy my conversation with Daniel Mills. Daniel, welcome to the Umpire Inspire podcast, my friend.
Pleasure to be here.
Now, I know that you are just like probably 95% of all the rest of the amateur umpires out there, in that you decided to umpire because, my kid needs an umpire. So can you go back to the beginning 100%. And just sort of tell me where it all started and how you made the decision to try and get involved?
Yeah. Well, it was definitely the parent meeting for my son, when he was probably 8 years old, I guess, when he started, beyond the t-ball, where, okay, kids are going to pitch, or the coach pitch or whatever. I think that was the year. And so the parent meeting, hey, we need someone to do snacks. We need someone to do, the various things. And none of those interested me. And one was, we need someone to be an umpire. And I thought, oh, okay. I started to do some research. I don't need top of the line, but I didn't want cheap, heavy stuff. I knew enough. So I got myself, I spent maybe probably $300, to get some good gear and a bag and the shoes and everything. I figured, well, why not, right? So that was a big part of what inspired me to actually stay with it. Honestly, was, I've invested some money in this. These games are terribly boring and nothing happens. Although, at that lower level, you can perfect your slot position because it doesn't hurt to get hit. Right. You absolutely perfect your ball call.
Lots of chances to call ball.
Lots and lots of chances. And so, from then on, I got myself a uniform, and, I showed up for these, I even forget what it is called in our league, what those, it wasn't even minor, it was whatever, rookie, I don't even know, right? But I showed up in full regalia, and that taught me right away how powerful just that symbol of being an umpire is, because I would walk on the field, and not only the kids on my son's team, but the other team was like, "Oh, we've got a real umpire." Little did they know that at that point, I wouldn't have considered I just looked like a real umpire, but
You looked the part.
that is one of the advices I give in all the clinics we do and to anyone who talks about it. In fact, I was just having this conversation with someone else. We're conditioned to respect uniforms, whether it's police, fire, a suit from a lawyer, whatever it is. When you're in some sort of outfit or uniform, there's a certain presence, and
Yep.
and I think for umping that goes a long way.
My youngest daughter, who we were just talking about downstairs, is involved with the Police Explorers program with the Linwood Police Department. And so she is coming to understand that same truth, and she's coming to understand that Dad and I are kind of similar. We both like wearing uniforms. We both like wearing body armor. We both like enforcing rules.
Yeah.
And sometimes not making friends, but doing the right thing. Like there's a lot of similarities going on right now. So she's totally seeing it.
Yeah.
But,
no, I
so
would,
that first year, you're calling ball and going home.
Yeah.
And do you think back to that first year? What was going through your mind after that year concluded? Because it sounds like you did it just because it needed to be done. And God bless you for that. Then when it finished off, what was going through your head? Did you think to yourself, that was actually pretty enjoyable? Or did it continue to be something that you did just because it needed to be done?
No, so even at that level, and one of the things, again, I always talk to new umpires or in clinics about is start at those low levels, because that is where you learn, because that is when kids could hit the ball and run to third instead of first. And that's the one where kids don't run when they're supposed to or throw. If you want to go and have an easy day of it, go do bases for varsity baseball, high school. You could take a nap. I mean, those kids know what they're doing. And so I think it's not uncommon for lawyers to be umpires and umpires to be lawyers. Again, there is definitely I enjoy rules and getting them right. I think that's one of the things that attracted me to law at one point. So things would come up and would be crazy at that level, and I didn't have answers. So I would go home every day after those games, and that's how I would learn the rules, and I would talk to other umps in my league and just try to get better and better and better. And so after that first year, I had a mentor umpire, Craig Tashiro from our league, a great guy and still a great ump, and always looked up to him and enjoyed work with him for many years. And he just encouraged me to go to clinics, and if you really enjoy it, the better you get at it, the more enjoyment you'll get out of it. So I just, after that first year, I kept going on, well beyond when my son had stopped playing.
Did you continue on with just baseball, or when did you make a switch into becoming, I would consider you more of a softball umpire at this
For
moment.
sure.
Would
Yeah.
you agree with that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, when I did a lot of baseball to start, and then did a mix of baseball and softball for a few years when my daughter started playing softball, fast pitch. I did find, even in those early years, in our area, a hotbed of fast pitch, right? So we've got some high quality play. And I found that even just being suited up and keep things moving and managing game pace, I wasn't the only umpire who was doing minors softball in those years. I did most of it, but I would routinely get 5 to 6 innings. Then other people would get 3 to 4 innings, from keep it moving. People just a little bit more of a business-like pace, right? And again, I think that was just because by that point I had been to several clinics and had more practice, and really the focus on, hey, game management, let's get go. Stop walking halfway down the base between pitches. Come on, stay in the box. Let's get rolling.
Right.
And my daughter being a pitcher, I wanted her to learn, you get in that circle and it's time for business. Let's go. Let's get to work. So
I love it.
And then I pretty much, once she got to majors and then into high school, I would do pretty much 90% fast pitch. I mean, and then now, I mean, I would much rather umpires fast pitch than baseball.
You would rather umpire fast pitch softball than youth baseball.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Why is that?
So, well, I mean, if given the opportunity to umpire in Major League World Series or NCAA or Olympic fast pitch, I would take fast pitch 100 times out of 100.
What is it you like about it? Is it the game? Is it the personnel involved?
It's
mixture
both.
Of the both.
Yeah, totally. So, I mean, so majors, baseball versus softball. It's Little League, right?
Okay.
So 12-year-old baseball player versus 12-year-old softball player. That 12-year-old softball player is playing on pretty much the same field she'll be playing on through college.
True.
Where that 12-year-old baseball player, he's going to be playing on a different field next year, and then maybe even a different field 2-3 more years from then on. So the game is already kind of what it is. And fast pitch is just a much more action-packed, fast game. The other thing that has been true, at least as far as Little League goes, and I'm sure you know this too as being an experienced Little League umpire, I mean, the biggest difference between boys and girls at that age is that girls do not need to be winning to have fun. And so whether it's the cheering that goes on in a softball dugout or just the makeup of the game, I mean, it's just more fun.
Going back a few years now for you, and when you started taking the step to get a little more serious about things, like you said, you started attending some clinics. Sounds like you got yourself all geared up from the very get-go.
Yes.
Which is awesome. That's uncommon. But what was that like for you when you first started getting into that type of education and instruction? And did it affect how things went on the field for you? Can you remember?
Oh, sure. I mean, it's like any educational experience. If you want to get the most out of it, you've got to at first somewhat humble yourself, So the reason I'm going to this clinic is to be better, but I already think I'm pretty good. That's why I'm going to this, to get, I'm good. I want to get better. And then when you go and you find out, oh, no, I'm not really good, right? I mean, what I thought was good is not right. All of the little mechanical things, when my league was generous enough to send us to the week-long school down in San Bernardino for Western Region umpiring.
And when was this? About how many years had you been umpiring before you made the decision to go down there for the week?
Not as many as it should have been, honestly. I want to say it was 5 years. I think I had been doing it 5 years.
You've been working about 5 years, and then
5 solid years. I had gone to the outreach clinic.
Sure.
I think 2 years in a row, that they came up here like a weekend, all day type of thing. But then I had the opportunity, and I'm like, yeah, for sure, I want to do it.
And why do you say it should have maybe been a little bit longer before you went down there?
Well, I just again, you go down there and, you think you're good, and then you realize, I mean, it was okay. I mean, listen, I'm fit, I move, but I just didn't have, we do 2-man games, you do 1-man games. All of a sudden, you're learning 3-man and 4-man mechanics. I have no idea. In fact, one of the things I wish I would have done throughout my umpiring time was do more of that stuff. Because then all of a sudden, you get into tournament season now. Oh, here's 3-man or here's 4-man, and it intimidated me because I didn't know it, and so I think I just wish I would have had a little more seasoning, just so there's more context. But that being said, I mean, one of the best educational experiences. I mean, I came out of that a week later, a completely different umpire and completely better prepared from a mechanical standpoint, a rule standpoint, an understanding, a demeanor. I mean, that next year after that season, after that week long, the game was almost in slow motion. That cliche of the game slowing down. I mean, it absolutely did, because I wasn't no longer just trying to think about things, and I had my mechanics refined to the point to where they needed to be.
And that was definitely an important milestone for you to reach, because that led you at that time to be able to get some regional Little League assignments.
Yes. Yeah.
And I'd like to sort of hear about that. What was your mindset when you went in? What are some of the takeaways that you think of when you think about how that week went for you?
Well, it was 2017.
Okay.
Was the year I was down there for the Western Region softball tournament, and which the winner then goes on to the Little League World Series. The year before, 2016, I was down there for the week as a parent, because my daughter's team from Mill Creek Little League made it all the way to San Bernardino, and a great time. I mean, that's when the team, the bulk of our Little League team was made up of most of these girls who also played on the same select team. You know, they're all still 12U, and the parent group. I mean, it's just fun. You know, we like to get together. We love to hang out with each other. The kids all got along, and it was a great time. And then, 1 year later, now I'm back as an umpire. Mm-hmm. So I got that assignment, and I was thrilled. And it was really cool because Mill Creek again made it back. They were Washington State champs. So now I'm down there. Well, my daughter isn't on that team anymore. She had aged out, but a couple of girls were repeats, and of course I knew all those families through all the years here. So that made it really extra special, just because from an umpire standpoint, I'll tell you one quick story. So, you know, when you're down there, there's someone throwing out the first pitch every game. You know, some local celebrity or athlete or TV personality or something, right? Okay. There's some dignitary. Okay. And there in the introductions of the teams and the umpires and the person, you know, it's a big deal, and the national anthem and all that. And so I had a cheering section. I mean, because there were people there, and the one game, there was some gal there who was there to throw out the first pitch, and I want to say I was the third umpire introduced, and from Washington, Daniel Mills, and I mean, this huge eruption from people come out, and this woman looked at me like, who the heck are you? Because I think I was umping like third base or something, right? I wasn't even the guy behind the plate that game. Right. And there was one of the older sisters of one of the players. She made a sign with my name on it, and it was really funny. So my experience there from that standpoint, it was great. But from an umpire perspective, again, I'll go back to what I said earlier. You know, all those games are 4-man mechanics, and I didn't know anything. I had the least amount of experience of everyone else on that who were down there that week.
Is that right?
I felt like, holy cow, I shouldn't even be here, right? I mean, but super high quality people. I mean, what a great group of guys. I mean, there you are in these barracks, in these bunks with dudes snoring and smelling like a bunch of, you know, 40 umpires. To 50-year-old guys do. And but a time I will never forget. Now I had some mechanical issues that were straightened out. You know, I graded out on my first game. You know, not that well. And that was. I mean, it was good and bad. I mean, again, you're there because you've reached a certain level, and then just to go there and realize, oh my gosh, I still have so much to learn. And a lot of it was, now all of a sudden, instead of things moving in slow motion, I'm the one in slow motion because I'm not familiar with 3-man mechanics, and I'm just there now trying to figure it out and think about it. I mean, I will say this, thankfully, not only not in my game, in no games during that whole 2017 tournament did anybody make a game-affecting mistake, you know, which was nice. And thankfully, I didn't, but nobody did. I mean, that was great. And that year also featured, I think, I mean, up to that point, the greatest final they ever had. I mean, that championship game, which I worked maybe the last 3 or 4 innings in right field line because Washington had made it to the championship. So I wasn't going to be in any, vital position, but they wanted us all to get some innings on the championship game. So we work a 6-man game.
Oh, is that right? And they swap in maybe on the lines?
On the lines, yeah. Yes, the other guys stayed, but we all got chance on the lines. I actually got to make 2 calls during that game, on a fair fall kind of a thing.
Go get him, kid.
Yeah, exactly.
Great calls too.
Washington against Utah. Utah won 1-0 in the bottom of the 8th inning.
Wow.
So we went to extra innings and a game that started with each team getting a runner on third base with no outs. And neither team could bring that runner home in the first inning. And then we didn't see any base runners again until late in that game. It was...
What a game.
What a game. Now, that is a game I remember a lot of details about. And unfortunately, our Washington team came up on the short side of it, and Utah ended up going to the World Series. But the whole experience was fantastic. Now, my second game I got behind the plate was much better than my first. But I will say, on all my base assignments, I just wish I had spent more time doing 3-man and 4-man mechanics. So, for umps out there listening to this, when it comes to tournament time, jump on those 4-man mechanics. I would always say, let's not. And I regret that for sure, because even if you do it all the time, which you can't do it all the time. Nobody has 4-man all the time. There's just, if there is out there, God bless it, but
less thinking.
Most of the time it's 1-man, right?
Sure. I know what you're saying though, because the chances that I've had, less thinking, more reacting,
correct, is
almost always the right formula to get that done. And that only comes over time.
Yeah. And in that season leading up to that, had some really great state games in which we worked 4-man, worked a 4-man mechanic with, Mike Lechner was in a game that we did in which, I was behind the plate and I had to go up to third, and all of a sudden the bases were loaded and, someone busted down from first to make a play at the plate.
Nice.
Because, it was textbook. And there were 2 umps in the crowd at that game who, came up to us afterward.
Oh, yeah.
Only the nerdy ump geeking out stuff that were like, wow, guys, that was really impressive, and that was cool, and the type of thing that no one else notices, which then you're doing it right because nobody noticed.
And now you're still telling about.
Totally, yeah. This is
years later.
Oh my gosh, yeah, this is 5-6 years later. Yeah, that's definitely one of the things, but definitely a great experience, humbling experience for me for sure.
Sounds like it, in the best way.
Yeah, no, just a different kind of perspective.
From the very beginning, you were dressed sharp, and you noticed and you observed that actually made a difference in people's perception and maybe even how the games went.
Yes.
What about these days? What have you learned over the years, and what would people say are your best traits, and what makes you a good Little League umpire specifically?
Well, I think for sure is just the attitude that I bring to the game, which is I'm there to do my job, which is to make sure the game runs as smoothly as possible, as efficiently as possible, and without anybody really noticing me. That's a great game. I know because people have said, and some people who have been friends with and know and have had the opportunity to be, friend outside the fence and umpire to the fence, whether it's a parent or a coach. And, in our neck of the woods here, and especially when my daughter was playing, there wasn't anyone in the stands I didn't know, haven't had drinks with, they're
Sure.
kids, they've all slept over at my house. They're, it's that. But the minute I step on that field, I am the umpire. I'm not Daniel Mills. I'm not the neighbor. I'm not the friend. I'm here to do a job. And one of the things that they always tell you in the clinics, and one of the things that once I started putting it into practice, helped me become better and helped me do everything better was I just don't chit chat. between innings. I don't go to the fence. I don't talk to people. I go to my spot. My focus is on the game.
Because you're doing a job.
Because I'm there to do the job. That's right. People stopped wanting to chit-chat with me because they just know that's not what I was doing. I don't really even like to chit-chat with the guy I'm working the game with. Unless there's a reason for us to get together and talk, let's not, because that that minute between, it's easy to start chit-chatting, And so I think one of the things that I like about, or that I've gotten positive feedback on, is that, hey, you're there and you look like you become a different person when you step on that field.
You take that as a compliment.
Oh, I do, absolutely, because I am a different person. Listen, when I'm in the stands, it's all about fun, but I'm there to be the ump. I'm here because these kids deserve the best run game they could possibly get. And they deserve to have someone who's focused on what's going on, the safety, the rules, I'm here to do a job. I mean, I want to earn that free hot dog.
Bingo. That's what it's all about, baby.
Snickers bar if you're lucky. It's all about the free hot dog.
So you come from a long occupational background in law, but several years ago you made a 100% pivot and moved into becoming a public school teacher.
Yes.
So what's that been like in regards to umpiring? How are umpiring and teaching related?
Well, for me, I mean, one of the things that that inspired me to move from the law office to the high school classroom was mainly I loved many of my clients, and my law partner, had tremendous respect for him and the other attorneys and the people we worked with, but there was part of me where I just felt like I needed to be closer to people and make more of a personal impact. I mean, I definitely consider myself to be a people person, and to be of service. I mean, you start, as you reach a certain point, you start looking at things a lot differently. My kids are almost grown up. I mean, a son in college, daughter a junior. I'm 52, and you just start to look at what matters and what really has been satisfactory to over the things in my career. And I realize when I'm truly happy and satisfied when I am of service to others. And so the fact that you do this stuff for umpiring for a hot dog, and people will say, oh, all that abuse, and I would like to dispel that, is that if you work hard and you do this well, you don't get a lot of abuse. I mean, listen, do you make mistakes and do people get hyper? Yeah, but those things, if you're doing it right, there really is not a lot to that. And so I that has never been even a thought after maybe my second or third year, like, oh my gosh, I don't want to get yelled at from parents. It's just because, not that it never happens, of course it does, but it's not a big deal. It's more about going out there, and I still have now. I'm at a point, because I teach at our local high school. The kids who will be graduating next year, my daughter's year, will kind of be the last big group of kids who remember me through Little League, and I still have had kids. I have a student this year who's like, man, I remember you were one of the best umps. Now, this kid was a catcher, right? So, of course, I know him. He knows me. And,
yes.
He's like, yeah, and whether he's being sincere or not, at least he's learned enough to, if he's coming into my classroom, let's start things off with a compliment.
We give him points
tell me
for that.
how good I was than the opposite. But, and going back into the classroom, there are more moments of joy in a week in that high school than there was in a year in the law office. I mean, there's some every single day, right? And not every day is great, and but most are really good. I will say that, and that's why it was the best decision I ever made, and I couldn't be happier. And I look forward to, wrapping it up, 15, 20 years down the road, whatever it is, whenever I decide to finally stop working, which, I mean, who knows when that'll be, because I am of that notion where, well, if I don't have some reason to get up in the morning, maybe I won't. So I don't know. I'm sure at some point my wife will be like, enough's enough, right? But no, I love it. And I just really think that teaching and umping, you get there's plenty of times where you're enforcing rules as a teacher and you're trying to keep things moving big time. And then as an ump, I think you're not teaching like coaching, but I think you do teach. And one of the things that where I preach about having that presence and having that right demeanor is that what you are teaching, passively teaching, is that, hey, take this game seriously and be focused, and you can still have fun. I mean, I've got a smile on my face on the field as an ump, but it's just, but I'm also there to do the job. And when you can carry yourself that way, when things do get hairy, you're just in a better spot to deal with it.
What I really liked hearing you say is when you made the switch from law to teaching,
Mm-hmm.
about you were in a place in life where you were looking for something a little different.
Mm-hmm.
You had a successful law career and made a lot of good connections and made some friends and did a lot of good.
Mm-hmm.
But you were looking for a different experience and more of a boots on the ground interpersonal experience. And it sounds like you've totally got that being a public high school teacher.
Totally.
And God bless you for doing that. And I really just think that that's a really fantastic example of what we ought to be doing on the field too.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the reasons why Umpire Inspire itself exists. Umpire Inspire is for people who think that we're doing more out there than calling balls and strikes.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that you're one of those people. So
Mm-hmm.
I want to ask you to speak to the listeners and to the younger umpires out there. What inspires you about being out there on the field and serving as an umpire? And what are some things to think about for younger or newer umpires to make their job as an umpire more than just showing up, getting their hot dog and going home, but rather something that you and I and so many other people just love and devote so much time to and consider a craft and a passion? How do you get to that place?
Whether they're there because they have to be there or they're there because they want to be there. That if you put yourself into it, and if you're willing to say, I'm not good at this now, but if I keep working at it, I can be good, then your enjoyment of it will just start, will really go through the roof. If you're going to get something out of it beyond just doing the job, part of it has to be within, this is just, I've chosen to do this, so how am I going to spend my time? Am I going to spend my time just getting through this, or am I going to spend my time getting to do this and having that attitude of, well, I'm putting in this time, why not be good at it instead of just getting through it? And if you do that, I think you then start to get inspired. And if you don't, well, then just get through it, but still be good, because the kids on the field and everyone else, you will be happier, if you try to do it well. But it really can be very satisfying when you walk off the field and even the losing team says something nice to you in the parking lot. And, that's happened more than once. I mean, it's not that, hey, good game, even though, and I've had that from close games from the losing side, which to me, then that's the ultimate.
What does the immediate future and the next couple of years hold for you?
What I learned this year is there are only so many hours in the day, and with a daughter and a wife and a son who's even at school still requires, I kind of got myself overcommitted. So I think this year, this upcoming Little League season, and certainly my daughter's softball season, which It just started today, first day of practice. And I may not do anything this year for the first time ever. I may, because I almost felt like when I walked off the field last year at Phil Johnson, I almost felt like, man, I was asking myself on the drive home, boy, is the fire out, or or is there some embers there? Now, I didn't go and put my gear on Craigslist or anything like that. I'm like, well, because that's part of the wisdom here. I've learned, like, give it some time, right? How do we feel next year? Now, this year, I've just got myself, like I said, so overwhelmed. I'm guessing that within 2 years, I'll be back to doing a really full load at the local league, and starting over, because I do find that while it won't be the same with my kids going in and my kids' peer group and parents, still a very powerful connection to when you can get that kid in your classroom who's like, oh yeah, I remember, because at our local field where they have the announcing at every game, like, you hear these names for years, and all of a sudden you see them sitting in your classroom. So just from that standpoint, I can't imagine I would not dive back into it after I kind of run the course with my daughters next 2 years.
For me, when it's a game in our local Little League with kids and coaches and fans I know versus just a random old game somewhere that I'm doing because I'm an umpire and I'm doing it, you sort of have to flip a different lever in your head, I think, to find the intrinsic meaning of why am I here for these 2 hours?
Yeah.
But I think it can be found pretty easily.
Yes.
You just decide, okay, this is what this game is. This is why I'm here today for this game right now for these boys or for these girls. And that's enough.
Yeah. Well, there's times when I've come to Mukilteo for your tournament. I was like, I'm here to help Jason. He's running this tournament. Or
good example. If
I get invited to go do a state crew game with someone who's getting ready to go do a regional, or okay, I'm here for these other 3 who are, who need this game and want the practice. You know what I mean? So to me, it all comes down to, though, is who is the person that I'm helping here? Not so much,
what am I getting out of this? How is this helping me in my...
I want the game to go well. That to me isn't enough to roll out of bed. Like, okay, another game. It's okay, who am I? And you can always look at the kids. Yes. I mean, that is ultimately what it comes down to, is the kids, the players.
Well, Daniel, man, this has been awesome. And I thank you so much
my pleasure.
For taking the time. It's good to just hang out with you and visit.
It is.
And me personally, it's inspiring to think about the types of things that you were thinking about on the field too, and the connections and the interpersonal things that make up umpiring. And there's joy in doing the thing right and doing the thing well and doing the thing to the best of your ability. And then there's a whole nother side of joy and purpose in modeling behavior and respect and being a certain kind of person for the people who are out on the field. And it's all good. All of the above is good.
Yeah.
So it's been cool hearing you kind of describe your perspective on that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on. And I will be seeing you very soon.
Yes.
One side or the other.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Jason. It's a pleasure. I mean, I feel like we could sit here and talk about umping for hours and hours, right? So I'd be happy to come back anytime.
All right. Thanks, buddy.
All right. Thank you.
So there you have it. I bet you can guess this just from listening to this conversation, but let me tell you from experience, Daniel is a great guy to be on a field with. You want him on your crew. He hustles, he works hard, and he's always got a great attitude. And again, it goes back to that balance thing we all aspire to. If you take anything away from these past 45 minutes you've spent with us, I hope it is a little encouragement to continue seeking that balance on the field between making it fun and doing your job. And of course, that means something completely different for a Little League umpire than it does for a D1 college umpire, but I still think it's similar in that if the needle is always pointed too far in one direction, maybe that's a part of your game to look at, or at least to be mindful of. And look, it's a process just like everything else, and some days will be better than others. But I think if we make balance a goal, we're going to be better umpires when we finally do step back onto a field. And hopefully that happens very soon. Thank you so much again for listening today. Take very good care of yourselves and your families, and I will see you next week on the Umpire Inspire podcast.